What is happening, Bitcoin accumulation country? My name is Phil. This is the Fun with Bitcoin podcast. We are in season 3, and this is episode 30. I hope everybody's having a great week. I've got a really great interview today with fellow Bitcoiner and taco carnivore Bitcoin plebe, BlakkBull Sports. And BlakkBull and I have chatted a lot about many different things for a very long time, all things Bitcoin, of course, and, sociopolitics and all kinds of fun stuff. So anyways, we have a really, really great chat lined up. And before we get into that, we are going to talk about dollar cost averaging and Swan Bitcoin. For anybody who is interested in dollar cost averaging and who wants to be purchasing Bitcoin but doesn't want to be spending their time constantly watching the charts and listening to traders that they really have no idea whether these people are credible or not, and you kind of just want to put this in in a passive sleep mode where you're simply just accumulating and hodling, being able to transfer that Bitcoin out to your own private address. So if you're interested in doing that and that falls in your wheelhouse, then you are looking for Swan Bitcoin. With Swan Bitcoin, the three main takeaways are we can do automatic withdrawal from a bank account, automatic purchases of BTC. You can time them based on your when you receive your check. You can do it let's say once you can do it once a month, or you can do it per pay period as well. There's lots of options for you to be able to customize how you purchase. And you could automatically withdraw to your chosen address. So if you're interested in a Bitcoin-only platform that is doing the great work of helping onboard people, then you definitely want to check out Swan Bitcoin. I'm going to have the link to their website in the show notes. Here is my talk with fellow taco carnivore Bitcoin plebe, BlakkBull Sports. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me on the Fun with Bitcoin podcast. I've got fellow taco carnivore Bitcoin plebe and Bitcoin friend, BlakkBull Sports. And we just decided to, he just reached out and wanted to, shoot the Bitcoin shit. And I'm like, you know what? Let's do it. So BlakkBull, really appreciate you coming on my podcast.
Hey, man. It's just fun. I got up, worked, then took the wife and the brother out to run around, work out, some sprinkles, and now shoot this shit with my boy. It's a good day.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Hey, what a way to spend the 4th of July, Talk about some Bitcoin.
Right, I know. So I'm glad to be here, man.
Yeah, me too. It's nice. It's nice to actually, it's like I can't tell you how many times, I'll be sitting there in the TCBP and I just want to all right, who wants to chat? Who wants to actually talk? Because there's only so much you can convey in typing, right? And
no, I know. And and you don't get tone too. And so TCBPers, we are so I feel very blunt to the point. We're going to say it. And so we just have such a unique community. I love it. I love almost everybody in there. And because of my job, I always have to be paying attention to my phone. So I'm always getting data and information. So it's just naturally, I get to interact a lot because I'm always on my phone,
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And you're definitely awesome. You're definitely one of the people I speak to most in that chat. I think there's probably I don't want to exclude anybody, but there's probably, let's say, 10 of us that constantly go back and forth and pretty much up to date with every single freaking conversation that's going on in there.
I try. I really do. I get up, I have a ton of info. I'm well, let me try to just make sure I didn't miss anybody, because sometimes the mentions won't show up. I'm trying to make sure I didn't miss anybody. Like my man Leffe, if he's got a breakfast picture, I need to see it, and then I need to try to share one later.
Okay, so
there's.
Oh, go ahead.
You go ahead. You go ahead.
I was gonna ask you. Okay, I was gonna ask you about Leffe because, and big shout out to him. He's an awesome dude.
Yeah, he's the man. He's awesome. Yeah.
So
it's my breakfast bud.
I was just gonna say, so I noticed you guys have this kind of meal thing going on.
Yeah.
So what's going on with that? I know that you do something a little bit different with your diet, and you've been essentially raving about the the fact that it works so well for you.
Yeah, so I'm big into fitness and health, and so Leffe, he loves breakfast. I do too. But the thing is my breakfast starts for me like usually around 4 in the afternoon. Breakfast. People don't think about it. Break fast. It's when you break your fast.
That's right.
People are just so used to breaking their fast in the morning. But people also used to not like eat late into the night, and so when they ate in the morning, they had a little more of a fast. Not as much as I do now, but like they had more of it, and that fasting is just so important. And so Leffe and I were talking about breakfast, and I guess I just, I'm always throwing my opinions out there. So I was just telling him, intermittent fasting is something I've done a really long time. Even like I started before it was cool, so to speak. Like in high school, which aging myself was, a while back. It's like, gosh, 18 or so years. But there was a book that came out called The Warrior Diet. And that was my first introduction. It was like by Ori Offenheimer. I'm butchering that name. But yeah, but it's the Warrior Diet. And that's what it was. It was, hey, fasting, going without food and just water is very beneficial. And my mother's a doctor, and she didn't like it at first, and nobody liked it at first. And then slowly over time, all the research and data started confirming that, hey, actually, this is really good for you. And there's a lot of reasons. One, you're cutting out, you're preventing, insulin spike. You're controlling your insulin. That's one reason. Another big reason is autophagy, the natural process of your body getting rid of damaged or soon to be dead cells and replacing them with new cells. It basically enables a renewing. It facilitates that renewing of your body. And when you do it every day, like I do, I recommend 16 hours, but I do 18 myself. The period between 16 and 18 hours is very powerful. The period between 14 and 16 is very powerful. My wife does 16, which is great. And she used to not, and then she started it, and now she loves it.
So I'm sorry, I just want to cut in and ask. So if I understand this correctly, you eat one meal a day?
No, that's OMAD. So I'm not OMAD. Yeah, I'm not OMAD. Like I did that before, though. I did that before. But the importance is not one meal a day. It's just the window.
It's the window.
I have I have like a 6-hour eating window. And so the importance is that 18 hours of nothing but water. A lot of people will do tea or coffee, but just make sure you don't put anything in there with calories. It'll mess with fast. And some of the arguments coming out are, well, it actually enhances autophagy, but I'm very skeptical. I'm kind of a guy like keep it simple to things that works. I know that if you fast for 18 hours on water, you're going to get the benefits. So, and I'm fine with that. I guess I'm a veteran, so.
Cool.
But, yeah, well, PD Mangan, I'm gonna throw that name out there on Twitter because he has a great anti-aging blueprint. And like I said, I don't sell anything for anybody. So if I'm telling you this, it's because I think it has value. He has a great anti-aging blueprint, and it basically goes through the fact that intermittent fasting is one of the most powerful anti-aging things you can do. So yeah, that's why I do it.
Interesting. No, that's super interesting, and it's so I remember I read this I read a book totally spacing on the name, but it's like it's not the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying, but it's like the Tibetan Book of Secrets, Life Secrets or something, whatever. Anyways, it's by the author. I know the author's name is Peter Kelder, okay? And essentially he talks about something very similar to what you're explaining about this kind of like this fasting window and only drinking water, or in their case, they had explained green tea, and like you said, coffee, and they specifically, and again, I don't know if this is correct or not, but as long as you didn't put sugar in the coffee, it was okay. So, you should have
that seems to be what, like, people argue about. It actually can enhance autophagy, coffee or tea, but I'm just very strict. Like, I love my coffee, but I have it during my eating window. But as long as you're doing like black coffee or green tea without anything in it, like, you'll be fine. It's just, I don't think it's gonna taste that good.
Yeah.
But,
I don't know.
You
Black
know?
coffee kind of grows on you, though. I mean, after a while, you kind of, it's like I never thought I would like it. Like when I was probably a late teen and I started drinking coffee, like, man, I was, one of these suckers with the, 2 creams, 10 sugars. Like, well, what is that? It's just like it's like a dose of diabetes. And
Yeah, it really is. Oh, Starbucks. Like they're just dishing out the diabetes nowadays. Like, what flavor do you want your diabetes? You know? I mean, that's the way it is.
it's
That's
true.
basically all this processed food, right? Like, what flavor you want your cancer? I mean, and it's just true. And
It is.
It's, cancer and diabetes are not funny things, but like we have to joke about it to kind of, it's like the meme culture, right? Like the meme, like we create them because we're trying to make a point, right? We're trying to get it into your psyche. Because if you just say, well, Starbucks, yeah, it's contributing to a lot of diabetes, like nobody cares.
No.
Like, but if you say, hey, look, what flavor wants your diabetes? Like, people connect with that. They think about that. They're like, yeah, it's kind of true.
Oh yeah, it touches them at a deeper level. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not just it's not just on the surface. But I wanted to go back just to one thing that you mentioned. What was the author's name? I'm sorry, Tony.
The one with the anti-aging blueprint. His name is PD, like initials, PD, and then Mangan, Mangan. I purchased the anti-aging blueprint, and it was excellent. It's research backed. It's really good. And like I said, I'm not connected or affiliated with anybody at all. So I'm just telling you, it's good. I recommend it.
I like that. I'm a big fan of, it's like I always say proof is your success. So, it's like if you want to actually, find out if something works, that you believe should, well, give it a shot, I mean, obviously that's within reason. Nobody here is suggesting that somebody goes and set their face on fire or something stupid like that. We all know what's going to happen, but it's just.
I hope you wouldn't listen to someone who told you that.
Yeah, exactly.
We have a problem now. Like we laugh, but like if someone out there like politicized it well enough, like someone would be like, "Oh, let me go light my face on fire." Like that's the culture we live in right now.
I know, and it's sad that like you have to give a warning like that. I mean, it's like somebody. I feel like we would have listened to the same type of show in like the mid '90s or the '80s, and you would never think of like somebody would say, "Hey, try something out and see if it works," and you wouldn't sit there and think of the dumbest shit possible, but. Today I feel like people just want to like find a way to to make it so that whatever you've said is just completely ridiculous. It's like, what are you talking about? I shouldn't go out and just try something to see if it works. Look,
dude, today it's just so ridiculous. Today on Twitter, like I don't even like engage with like these type of people much, but like someone was like, I was scrolling through my Twitter or something like, I'm not racist, but if you stop listening to men on crypto Twitter, you'll find it's a very happy place. And I was just like, okay, so not racist, but sexist. Right?
Exactly.
Thank you for clearing that up. It's just like, I just don't know what virtue signal like you're trying to come from. You're like, okay, the person's basically like, well, I don't judge people based on the pigment in their skin. I just judge them between what part is between their legs. It's like good for you. Like, boy, what a moral like standard you are.
Isn't that freaking brutal though? It's like, and the sad thing is, there's not. You know what? There's nobody in their life that's actually going to tell them, listen, you're full of shit. Like
tell them the opposite. Yeah, they'll be like, yeah, you're right. Like, there actually is no reverse sexism. Like I saw that in the comments briefly. It's like. Oh no, she said it. I think as a response, she said, "Well, everybody knows that like women can't be sexist."
What?
And I'm like, "Oh my gosh!"
You know what? Oh God, I can't believe you just mentioned that. That's okay. So I had a teacher in college. Okay, I had a teacher in college, and this guy taught a class called Propaganda in the Media. Okay.
Yeah.
And it was essentially all about how. That men being abused by their wives or by women, physically, emotionally, or anything like that, how it's not taken seriously, right, by society, by culture, because men are the aggressors. right?
Yeah.
And like that's just the way that it's seen, right? That we are the aggressors. And
The archetype, yeah.
that's right. And it's very interesting because the statistic of men that are actually at the time, keep in mind these statistics go back to I'm an old guy, so this is like 1996, 97 maybe. You're talking, I think the number was something like it was like 48%. Like 48% of men that are abused or something like that don't report it.
Yeah, well,
because they know that
I
nobody's gonna believe them. Like, can you imagine? Like, you walk into a police
And
station.
it's embarrassing too. Right? If you're a man, I mean, it's just true.
It's a stigma.
Yeah.
Know.
All this stuff, like all this divisive stuff, though. It's like the truth is like for instance, like myself, like I'm very quick to point out, like the only reason why I consider myself, some I'm sure disagree. The only reason I would consider myself a strong man is because I've had so many amazing strong women in my life, like help mold me into a strong man. Like, I contribute that to them. My mom, my wife, grandmothers. I mean,
it's true.
I guess what I'm saying is like strong women beget strong men, and strong men beget strong women. And it's really sad to see like society trying to play them at odds with each other. And even like now where it's like women are like, you need to be more like a man, and man, you need to be more like a woman. It's so messed up. It just weakens our society.
I personally think it's a total population control plot. I think that I'm sure that this will be an unpopular opinion, but I honestly believe that feminism has been duped, and somehow they've the narrative is that they need to be more like men, and this idea of like being effeminate is somehow like a manly thing. It's weird, like. Don't get me wrong, like a woman should have absolutely been paid the due respect that she deserved when doing the female work of taking care of children and making sure that the house is in order, because we could see today, okay, the fact that women were, I think, like, were kind of like not given that the due, like the due respect. We can see today the destruction of the atomic family and the atomic household. Like, there's a reason why, they say that behind every good man is a great woman. Okay.
It's so true.
It's like,
it's so true.
People miss that point. It's not about the fucking, I'm sorry to say this, it's not about the fucking good guy. It's about the great woman. And
I agree.
It absolutely takes that. And I think we're totally fucked today. Excuse my language.
Well, I mean, your most important job too is father, mother, right? And like, I can tell you, like, it tries. I don't know. Society's trying to put you in a corner where you can only be one. Hey, look, my mom, brilliant woman. She was very big businesswoman, and guess what? She was a great mom. She made dinners. She was always there for us. I can't think of a time when my mom was not there for us. Eating dinners, and she still had a extremely successful executive career, so it's just like, it's just so bizarre. I guess that's the tactic though, is try to get you, I guess, put you in a corner where you have to make a decision and neglect something else that's actually more important. Because, like, for instance, myself, I care about my career and building my job, but shoot, like, my most important position in life after being a follower of Jesus Christ is being a great son, being a great husband, and being a great father. Like, that's number one, right? And for some reason, people are just, I guess popular culture is telling people, no, you need to be great at your job, have all these things, and you don't need all these things. I mean, let's be real. Like, it's people are living their lives fighting for things that they don't need, and doing that as a priority above the things they really do need, and fulfilling the roles that are really important, most important. And you're right. I mean, that leads to population control for sure. And to go even further on that point, like, if you go the feminist movement, if you go into the whys, like deep down the rabbit hole, I mean, it was a whole nother tax base.
Yep.
I mean,
that's
it's
right.
True. Like, it opened up a lot more people to tax.
It's such a mind fuck. It is such a mind fuck. And I just want to go back to something that you said just before. Like I believe, the fact that your mother was able to do that is definitely amazing, right? Like it's all the power to her, because I think that people shouldn't be forced. I'm not saying she was, but people shouldn't be forced into that type of a position, right? Like you should be able to. At one point, we had the capability to have one breadwinner in the family and have somebody else
That's true.
take care of the family, and we've been we've been robbed of that.
Well, that's true.
To a certain extent.
To me, it's like, to me, the interesting thing is when I was younger, and they had the term feminist, I used to be like, well, I guess I'm a feminist because I believe in equality. I believe that men and women should have the same opportunities. A woman should be able to pursue her career, man the same. Now, I still believe both need to put their family as the priority. But if you can do that, if you can have your family and pursue your dreams and I think you should be able to do that. So you say, well, yeah, I'm a feminist. And then I realized, wait a second, feminism is not equality. Like, not now. It is supremacy. I've seen it for too many years now. And so, that's the ironic thing. But it's all political stuff. Just like race issues, like that's another card they're playing. Like it's BS. Like you will always have stupid people who are racist or sexist. Yes, this is true. But don't tell me society is institutionally racist. Like, not in America. It's just not true. I mean, do you have some institutions? Sure. I mean, that's anywhere, and I think it's really hard to get rid of. I mean, you're basically trying to create the perfect people so you never have any racism or any sexism or whatever. But if you're telling me it's institutional, like, that's just not true. And I think it's a diversion tactic, because, like, for instance, like right now, all this craziness going on. And I've seen it with a lot of people that I talk to, friends. I try to correct them on this, from all different sides. Say, hey, look, guys, like, it's just a distraction. Like, it's not racism. That's not the issue. The issue is police brutality, which affects everyone. So because you're being diverted your attention to this conflict between other people for these immutable traits, which you shouldn't be diverting your attention to that. That's not an issue. I can tell you what is an issue, though, is police brutality. And in order for us to address that issue, we have to put aside this BS infighting they get us involved in. Man versus women, white versus black, whatever it is. Put that aside. It's BS conflict that's being drummed up so that we don't actually focus on the real issues. Because if we ever do, then they're in trouble.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's I just there was a piece that I wanted to go back to that you said, right, about family as a priority, right? So it's like everything you watch, if you have the if you have the misfortune of sitting in front of your television and actually believing what you're seeing, right, you're constantly being reminded about all the ways that you're not you're not adequate, right? The guy doesn't have enough hair, doesn't drive a nice enough car, doesn't doesn't have cool enough gadgets. The woman, she needs the longer eyelashes, she needs like way more facial creams, she needs like different, all the stuff, right? Like, and that's really like, that's all they're ever doing. And to be perfectly honest, that is part of the distraction. All of this is like part of the distraction, and it's like it's at a smaller role than the piece you're talking about. But when they pull the race card, okay, I find when they pull these types of things, this is when they mean business. This is when they really don't want you paying attention.
I agree.
It's like, it's so weird that whole, like, and, again, I'm not going to play into the politics of what happened with, Black Lives Matter and everything like that in Seattle. But I just find that whole George Floyd thing and COVID and all of this stuff, everything is like very strangely kind of intersected,
Well, it's like, it's like, guys, like, I support protesters. Like, that's one of my specialties when I went to law school. I love the Constitution. I support the First Amendment. I support protesters. I may not always agree with them, but I support your right to protest. In this case, I do agree with the protest with police brutality. But what I'm against is I'm against the violent police and I'm against the violent rioters. And like the thing is people, like you said, like with this programming from the media, it's like they're told you have two choices. You can be on the side of the police or you could be on the side of the rioters. It's like, no, you can hate both those sections. Or or not hate, I don't want to use the word hate. You can say both these sections of people are being violent in an aggressive manner against peaceful people, and it's wrong. You can say that. Like, that's okay. Like, we can correct both issues. We can say, hey, look, police have been infringing upon the liberties and the constitutional liberties of people for a very long time and putting people in cages for things that don't harm people. We can say that's wrong. And then being overly aggressive and violent towards people in the process of their profession, we can say that. And then we can also say, hey, but if you have a problem with it, you shouldn't go on private property of private citizens and destroy their stuff and hurt their person. Like, that's wrong too. You can say both's wrong. And actually, that's the only stance that's consistent morally.
It's true.
Any other stance, yeah. It's amazing the job they've done to make people think, to make them embrace inconsistent moral, I guess, frameworks. And I guess it goes back to, and we can go down a lot of rabbit holes, but like it goes back to one of the quotes from, I can't remember who it was, from the CIA, that said, like, we will have been successful when everything the public believes is false. And like, that's kind of what you're talking about, is people are constantly bombarded with bad messages, bad morals, trying to lead them to pursue things that won't make them happy. It's not true happiness. It's not real values. It's not what will really fulfill you. And trying to get people to have all these morally inconsistent views so they can't even operate on a day-to-day basis. It really is warfare. Like, and you're seeing it. Like, I can tell you, I don't care what you think about Trump. I don't like any politician. But what I will say is that since he got elected, you've seen it ramp up like crazy. I've never seen it like be so crazy, with just constantly people getting bombarded with politicized everything and messages, and it's just wild.
Oh yeah, it's wild, and if you really, if you take the time to zoom out, you can see that it's like a campaign of confusion. And I'm not talking about Trump particularly. I'm talking about the global picture. It's like a campaign of confusion, and all these different narratives are all battling it out. And to be perfectly honest, all it does is keep every single one of us separated, right?
Oh, I agree.
I mean,
that's their biggest fear, right? Like, what if people got together and said, why am I born and then I work and I pay taxes on what I bring in? I pay a large percentage. I mean, depending on how much you bring in, but still you pay a decent percentage of what you bring in to a third party that will put you in a cage at gunpoint if you don't do so. So you got to do it, right? It's a big gang. And so I do that on my income. Anything I bring in, I got to pay a percentage, right? Then if I decide I want to buy something, well, we got to give this mob another take. The same mob, got to give them a percentage of that. Man, if you're fortunate enough to get enough to buy some property, well, you don't really own that, because you're going to need to give us a percentage of that, for the rest of your ownership of that asset. And hey, if you make a good investment in life too, that we need a piece of that too, a pretty significant percentage. And this should be very relatable to Bitcoiners. And then if you finish your life, right, and you accumulated some good assets because you want to help your kids and your offspring also have a good start and continue with life and take care of your grandkids, their kids, well, you know what? We're going to need our cut out of that first too. And it's just, how did we get here? And I know we've had these discussions in our watering hole, TCBP. It's very dear to my heart because we can have these discussions. And we got here because strong people let it happen. They just They wanted to just enjoy their lives, right? And I mean, it's understandable. We all want to avoid confrontation. We want to enjoy our lives and kick the can down the road. And so this can of debt and responsibility to stand up for what's right, it just kept getting kicked down the road because it's like, well, I could stand up for this, but it puts me at risk, and everything's fine right now, and I'm benefiting from this, so let's just put it off for the next generation, right? And so it just kept getting put off, and put off, and as you do that, the penalty and the negative effects, they exponentially increase, right? And to the point where eventually it's going to break at some point, and now we're seeing major effects. Since it's like the meme, right? What happened in 1971, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah, and it's so true. Like, look at it. Look at what the CPI, like an accurate CPI. Like, look at the effects, like you were talking about how. I mean, it's not even a sexism issue. It's not a gender issue. Like, the facts are, in 1971, man or woman, whoever's working, right? You could have one bread winner, and that's it. And you could get your house right out of college. You could pay for your college with a part-time job. Your health care was reasonable. Like, you could do all these things. And now you can't. Now, like, college is going to put you in debt, a lot of people, for life. And man, most people, I mean, they're not going to be able to buy their house. They're going to have to get a mortgage. Hey, that's another change. And it's just all these things are just going out of control. And, it's all tied together, because it's like you have all these assets being pushed up artificially in value, and it benefits the people, the older generations, because they hold their wealth in those assets. But it's not real demand. And the future is being sacrificed because they can't purchase necessities anymore. That's your future. They can't purchase necessities. And we're reaching that breaking point right now. And so I can just tell you, my friend, and all my friends listening, who I'm thankful for, because it keeps me sane, is that during these crazy times, I've been the most unsettled I've ever been, thinking about these things. Kind of like our controversial friend American Hoddle mentioned the other day on Twitter. It's like, it's just so much is going on right now. Most people are completely oblivious to it, but it's like something's got to happen. like it's just getting the point of being. I mean, I said the breaking point. We're way past the breaking point. So yeah. I'm just wondering, like, what is going to happen? Like, and we all know that we have a life raft with Bitcoin, and we do. But man, I mean, it's just, I don't know. I think I just don't know how all this stuff's gonna pan out. But I know that right now the way society is not sustainable. So something's gonna have to change.
That's right.
And and I have hope and belief, and we have brilliant people, especially in the Bitcoin community, working on solutions. And at some point, the old guard is going to be bashed down, figuratively or literally. I mean, it's going to happen.
Well, it's funny, right? Because actually, here, before I go on about this, I just wanted to add one point. The word mortgage in Latin translates to death pledge.
That's
so,
right.
so to the people,
right.
so to the people that think that we were ever meant to pay off a mortgage, you're out of your mind. You were never meant to pay off the mortgage. It's called a death pledge. You're gonna pay
People
that shit till you
more
die.
Attention to that stuff, right? Like, I love that you did that, because people need to, like, actually. I remember I had my favorite professor. I brought him up in the group the other day, but he's a great professor. But he's like, if you have a case book in law school, you read these cases. I mean, there's just so many details. So you have like I don't know, hundreds of footnotes with one case, right? And like, you better know every single definition of every single word. That's why I love that you did that, because like, people they're like, oh, I don't know the definition of that word, I'll move on. Why? You're reading this, like, you should know what it means. Like, it's just people, like, they don't even take the time. Like, okay, mortgage, what does that mean? Yeah, like you said, like, you should know that. If more people knew the origins of things, man, we'd be so much better off.
So it's very interesting you say that, right? Because, a lot of people, think, well, you know the saying, right? If you control the means to the money production, then it doesn't matter who makes the laws. I think it was, I don't know if it was Rockefeller or Rothschild who said that, but there's a point to be said for what you just mentioned about language. And language is incredibly important and can be one of the most powerful, absolutely, most powerful tools that you can use in an arsenal, because most people are not looking at the meanings of the words. And, they conflate those meanings, right? They confuse them. And you don't even, to be perfectly honest, at some point, people don't even know what they're saying anymore. They're just rattling off rhetoric.
You're right. And it's very powerful, the words used. Like let's take it one step further. Like, let's look at laws, the Patriot Act. Right?
Yeah.
Like it is entitled the very opposite thing that it is. It's just we're in this modern culture where it's like up is down, like the Patriot Act, right? Like it's just ridiculous. Like it's ridiculous how it's normal for something like the Patriot Act to be called the Patriot Act. I guess that's my point. It's just so bizarre. Like, how in the world can something that just obliterates the privacy rights of Americans be called patriotic? It's just ridiculous.
It's
and not just privacy rights, by the way. There's a lot more in there, but I'm just saying, that's a big part of it. So,
who was it that said it? Benjamin Franklin. The society that gives up freedom for security will enjoy neither and have none, or something like that.
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah, Ben Franklin. Well, it's like anything. It's like gun control. Hey, look, like gun control is like me practicing with my Glock, with my trigger control. Like, to me, that's gun control. Like, when you're taking guns away from potential victims and making more gun-free zones where 98% of the mass shootings happen. I mean, that's victim disarmament. And that's what I mean. Like, language is powerful, because like if you call that gun control, it's like shoving a concept that is inconsistent with what it's entitled down people's throats, that if it was properly characterized, they may actually assess it more accurately and be like, yeah, that's BS, right? But they call it gun control because it's more palatable, right?
Yes.
And that's why I'm a big thing of, like, instead of prison, and like I did this on Saints podcast, but it's like it's a cage, because that's what it is. Like, and like I'm big, like when we talk about the craziness going on right now with the protests and the riots and police brutality and everything. It's like we're always talking about, like, what is the solution? Well, I can tell you the first solution is decriminalization. Like, you have to get rid of laws that don't actually harm people. And
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, you got to get rid of those things. And then the second thing is you got to remove immunity from cops. Like, they have to be accountable for their actions just like anybody else. And I can't believe that that's such a controversial topic, but it is.
Oh my God, you can't do that.
Yeah,
they're standing up for the state. They're protecting you. They have to have a different set of laws. I'm just like, I'm obviously being completely sarcastic, I mean,
no, I know you are. I know.
Like, it's so insane. And I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't desire, to be a police officer. I would not want to be in that position, but I would definitely want to be in a society, that actually protects both the individual and the police officer, through accurate laws that make sense, right? Like, to your point, what we have is the imposition of a surplus of laws that make no fucking sense. And if there's anything I've learned, a society that is like poorly run is one with, like, it's like, how could I say this? It's like the more laws we make, the more chaos we bring.
Well, that's a very popular quote, by the way, about the more laws you have, the less freedom you have, which is so true. But I mean, that's the thing, is like those are two issues to me. Like, first of all, if you sign up to be a cop, like, you're a bad guy. And it's like, hey, look, I know cops and, seem like decent guys, but they're not in practice, because when you sign up to be a cop right now, you are agreeing, it's part of your job, to enforce laws that are unconstitutional and that put peaceful people in cages for not harming anybody. Like, yeah, you're doing some important things too. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, you're also locking violent people up and people who harm people, and that is important. Like, we do need to take out harmful, aggressive actors out of society. That is true. But the problem right now is, this is why I talk about decriminalization being the root thing that we have to solve, is because the first thing you got to do is eliminate laws that put people in cages for non-harmful actions, because then you're not putting the police officer in that position, right? So that's the first thing, is like every single thing that police officer signs up to enforce needs to be constitutional, and it needs to be taking a aggressive, harmful person out of society, right? That's the first thing. And the second thing is that police officer has to be responsible for his actions just like anyone else. So if the police officer decides to go rogue and put a person who is not an aggressive, harmful person in a cage, or harm him in the process of trying to put him in a cage, that police officer has to be held accountable for his actions just like any other private person. So that's how you solve it. But, obviously the political interest is in not solving that. So,
well, of course,
it's
it's the easiest thing to do, right?
Yeah.
It's so much easier to just drum up a new law, create some tax, some revenue stream, and boom, now you've followed the incentive, right? The incentive was to create revenue, and now look, now you've got somebody else going through the system. Everybody wins except that person. So it's almost seen as like a societal good. Look, you helped so many people there.
It's I mean, it's just crazy to me how we got here. I've just been thinking about that. I guess with this coronavirus, we've had some time because a lot of the American sports markets have been down for me. So I've had more time to ponder some of these things. And, and the one thing, we've talked about in TCBP is, and I've talked about it because we have a lot of people from all over the world. I love them all. And like I said before in Saint Bitcoin's podcast, like, America is an idea. It's not a geographical region. It's an idea. And, I want all my Bitcoin brothers and all of us to build a world based on the principles of natural law. And basically that's just, hey, if I'm not aggressively harming anybody, leave me alone. Like, it's that simple. And my hope is that Bitcoin will enable us to impose that society in the most peaceful manner. That's my hope, right? But I mean, the one thing I've been kind of harking on lately is that, like, America, like, how did we get to be such a financial tyrant? And I mean, the answer, but like, it's just like, I'm talking about like taxation, regulation, all these filing requirements. It's just like, how did we get here? It's just an interesting realization when you say, hey, look, well, we had freedom of speech, we had the Second Amendment, but yet people still allowed themselves to get chained financially. I mean, it's an interesting thing, because like nowhere in the world do you as a citizen, private citizen, have the ability to have a semi-automatic rifle, protect your rights, speak out, have your voice be a weapon as well. And yet America has become one of the worst financial tyrannies in the world. And I say that as someone who loves America. And I guess the reason why I've been very vocal lately is because I want us to correct that, because it's embarrassing to who we are as a people. It really is. Like, we should not be, I mean, hey, look, the bottom line is if we were really American and held to our ideals, Bitcoin would be our currency. It's just the way it is. Like, we wouldn't have some private banking cabal running our finances and controlling the money. And, even our founding fathers were against the Federal Reserve and what it's become. So I guess that's kind of one of my emphases now, is as someone who loves America and who wants America to be, again, the beacon of freedom that it's supposed to be. Like, we need to wake up, because like it's not like we're a little tyrannical financially. Like we're crazy tyrannical financially. We're the only country in the world that our citizens, if they go live somewhere else, they're still on the hook for income taxes. Like, yeah, you can get the FEI, the exclusion up to a certain amount, but the point is you're still on the hook, even though you're living somewhere else. I mean, almost no other country does that.
Oh yeah.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, like I've been paying very attention. Another name I'll throw out there, but I don't agree with everything he says, but he's very knowledgeable about the world and the financial liberties. Is Andrew Henderson of No Bad Capitalist. He has some great videos. When I take my lunch break, I usually watch one of his videos, and he left the U.S. and he says, you know, his personal reasons, whatever. But the one thing I will say about him is that he really understands how the rest of the world is not chained financially like Americans are. And it's just so bizarre. I have a family member who lives abroad, and we talk about this all the time. It's like, yeah, like social freedoms, like America is king. That's true. Like I studied abroad in places you would say are some of the most free socially, and they're not as socially free as the U.S. Like other countries, there's no country that legally, in writing as a part of their law enables the social freedoms that we have. Right now, you can talk about soft freedoms. You can say, well, you can go this place and they don't really enforce the laws. Okay, but it's there. They can't enforce it against you. So we are socially the most free country in the world. But I tell you, financially, we're so far down, it's embarrassing. And I guess the reason why I want to bring this up is I want Americans to wake up, because I want them to realize, like, hey, look, like this is so out of control. Our finances, our taxes, our regulations, our filing requirements. I mean, it's so out of control. Like it needs a major revamp. I'm not talking about a touch up here and there. I mean, there needs to be a major revamping of America financially. Because apparently, unfortunately, like, I mean, I guess I'll end on this because I want you to chime in on it. I don't want to run. I have a tendency to do that. Yeah, I know I do that. But I guess what I want to say is, like, apparently our social freedoms were not enough to protect our financial freedoms. Like the people, I guess, we always talk about the remnant, right? That you brought that up, that great article you sent me on, which I loved, by the way. But it's like the remnant, like is a very small section of people, and the masses did not use their social freedoms to protect their financial freedoms here. And so we got to get them back. I guess that's what Bitcoin's about. But I mean, it is what Bitcoin's about, but we got to get those back.
Oh, I totally agree. I mean that, and yeah, to your point, that article there, Isaiah's Job about the remnant, that was Francis Pulio that pointed me in the direction of that. That I read that and I absolutely got goosebumps because I understood immediately the role that we play, and it's like, wow, that it was very, it was definitely deep, and I think I personally did not realize the taxation that we in America end up incurring if we go to live overseas, and that everywhere we go, we are simply always, you know what I mean? We are always, I guess, like paying, we're always paying the piper everywhere we are, and it's the thing about it is this, right? Because you explained, like, we kind of know how we got here, but really what people don't want to admit, the average person doesn't want to admit, is that, we're lazy, right? People are lazy.
Yeah.
The average person is lazy, and personal responsibility is incredibly difficult for most people. Nobody wants to be personally responsible, or very few people. And as a result, it's so much easier to simply just offset the burden. Right? Offset it to an omnipotent third party that just absorbs all the ill will, that just absorbs all of the problems, and quote unquote makes them go away, right? But
Right.
but in the end, it's like we're a fucking closed ecosystem on Earth. The problems don't just go away. We can't just like offset this to somebody else, and we have, and to your point, right? We we've watched generation after generation do this, and now here we are, a bunch of bag holders, and we've got all this weight, and there's absolutely no substance to it. You know, like what do we have now? We're in 2020. We have a money that is entirely debt based. So every single, you know what I mean? Every single one of us, as you know as well as I do, because we talk about this all the time, every second of the day, every penny that we've earned is constantly losing its value. And it,
Yeah.
and people will always sit there and tell you, you know, oh yeah, well I have investments and the investments earn 4 to 6% annual and this and that. Okay, well guess what? The Fed can print as much as they want whenever they want. You have zero control over that. And
Yeah.
your stocks, they can dilute your shares. So at the end of the day, I mean, look at what happened in 2008, man. Tons of people were getting ready to retire, right? Wasn't that convenient? You know?
Yeah.
It's like all of a sudden, I kid you not, I can't tell you how many people that were, you know, it's like these people were about to retire and now they're fucking working as greeters in Walmart. Not that there is
Yeah.
anything wrong with work. I don't care what work you do. I've scrubbed toilets, I've been a greeter, I've made subs. I don't, it doesn't really matter. Work is work. It's about what you do with the money. But, you know,
Right. It's
to
just
see
wrong,
that,
right?
right?
Like that's the point. It's just wrong. That should not be like I always tell like we shouldn't have necessities be this expensive. There shouldn't be this many homeless people. There shouldn't be starving people. There shouldn't be people who are struggling to get a house. Like that's what we talked about. Like why can't you buy a house when you get out of college? Why do you have to accept a lifetime of debt just to get educated? Like why? It's just so frustrating, and that's the thing that we just have to obliterate with Bitcoin. We have to obliterate it because there's human beings are so powerful. They really are. And we've just been held back for so long. And if we can just get these entities, these centralized entities out of the way and start working together more, and especially in systems that don't rely on trust, and third parties, if we can just interact more together, man, the things we can create, I mean, it brings a tear to my eye thinking about like what we can do as human beings. Like the possibilities are limitless. We just have to get these bad actors out of the way and take away the reins out of their hands and just work together, and we can eliminate these bad things. I mean, yeah, we'll never be perfect. I'm a big believer in perfect is the enemy of the good, but we can be way, way better than we are now in almost every area. And people don't need to be struggling like they are. It's completely unnecessary. And the reason why it's happened is because, powerful people centralized and got in the way of the natural process of human beings building and working together, which, I mean, we've never been to a stage in technology where we can all work together and build things now. We just got to get these controllers out of the way. Bitcoin is a humongous part of that. And, but we talked about this in TCBP, like Bitcoin is absolutely essential, but it's not all that is necessary. That's my opinion. Like you're not, like Bitcoin itself is not going to just do everything. Like good people are going to have to take a stand, non-comply with things that are wrong, and build things and just be good people and work together. Like we have to have that too. So I really want young, especially young Bitcoiners to understand that too. Like, hey man, hodling Bitcoin, like, boy, that is just a humongous heroic act in this revolution to restore freedom to the globe. But like, you also need to be a person of character. Like, you also need to be a good person that finds other ways to enable freedom and to not comply with things that are wrong. And I won't go on a big spiel on it, but disabling the funding mechanisms of these people who are getting in the way of us working together, i.e., taxes, that's an important part, guys. Like, because like if you hodl your Bitcoin and pay taxes on it, like it's not going to change that. I mean, it's not going to remove their power, I guess is my point. Like, we need a sound money, and then we also need to make sure that it's not subject to constant theft, which includes taxation. We're protected against inflation, but we need to protect ourselves against taxation too. And I guess one of the things I see coming down the line, potentially with all this crazy stuff, because none of us know how all this is going to go, but I could definitely see governments, including America's, becoming more tyrannical and upping the tax rate. We have all types of different taxes, and we need to make sure that we do not allow that to happen. So that's a big part of it too. And I feel like that's just never talked about because it's a very scary thing to stand up to the mob. But that's important, you know? We got to get a backbone at some point.
I totally agree. You know, like, do you ever see that meme about, like, everybody, like, essentially it shows, like, all the bankers and the war machine and everything, like, all sitting around the table, and all the people are the table legs, and it just says below it, if we all stand up, they can't play their game anymore. And that meme is incredibly powerful, and it is absolutely true. And I can say that, you know, one of the interesting things I found, like, even in the workplace, right? Like, let's say you're working for a company, and the company is doing something clearly wrong to its employees. Do you know how difficult it is to get your fellow employees to stand up for the right thing alongside you?
Oh, yeah.
You know why? And it's the beautiful, this is the mindfuck of incentives, okay? Because they've got their kids to feed. They've got their bills. Right. They've got their bills to pay. They've got their problems to solve. So guess what? As much as he wants to do the right thing, he needs to just shut up and pay the bills. And that is the problem. And they understand that. So as long as the wheel gets bigger and the energy required, you know, i.e. money, you know, the fiat that's required to make it spin, well, they'll make sure that, you know, that you never really get a chance to stand up because you'll never be able to find enough people altogether. So
well, that's what corporatism is, right? I mean, like, hey guys, I hate to break it to you, but the father of fascism, Benito Mussolini, when he asked what fascism is, he said corporatism. What do we have in America right now?
Corporatism.
Like, if this isn't corporatism, I don't know what is. And like you said, excellent point about how it misaligns the incentives. Like, I'm such a big believer in incentives. That's a problem. You're right. People are incentivized to act in a way that doesn't benefit society and that doesn't lead to more productivity. I mean, what we want to do is we want to incentivize production, and that's not what this does anymore. I mean, that's why socialism always fails, is because you disincentivize production.
That's right.
You know, it's whatever you want to think about it. I personally don't, like, a lot of people say, well, it's a nice idea, but it doesn't work in practice. Well, to me, it's not a nice idea because anything that requires violence to implement is a immoral thing. And socialism, communism absolutely requires force and violence to say, hey, look, this is the right thing. You have to do it or we're going to punish you. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
But even after that, even if you do think, oh, it's a nice idea, well, the facts are is that it disincentivizes production, and that production and wealth is not a zero-sum game like people make it out to be. The more producers we incentivize, the more products and wealth and things that we can all enjoy as a society. And that's why socialism fails, because it disincentivizes producers. And it's one thing I've been telling friends of mine is like, you know, the thing I'm concerned about in America is a wealth and capital flight, because it's just, you can see like the direction of this country, and we don't know which way it's going to go, but we can see where it is right now. And it is going in, I mean, we are socialists and we're going more and more socialist, and you're going to push out innovators. You're going to push out producers. And I'm not saying that those people eventually will find out, well, you move somewhere else and And then guess what? They developed and they had the same thing happen to them. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is these people, they're gonna, to use the guy I mentioned, Andrew Henderson's phrase, they're gonna go where they're treated best. And it used to be that we attracted all these genius people from all over the globe, and now we're gonna push out a lot of brilliant people, a lot of producers, and that scares me because it's like reverse Americanism. you know, like we want to open it up. We want to attract brilliant people. We want this to be the place where this is like the place for freedom. Like anyone, as long as you're not a violent, harmful person, you can come here and which is I guess the problem with that is the welfare state is that people should be allowed to come here, and then if they can make it, they stay. If they can't, they leave. Like that's the most natural free market solution to it. And if that's where we were, man, we'd be heading in a great direction. But that's not where we are, right? We're not just now, we're keeping talented people out of the country, and then we're also starting to push talented producers out. And I'm just a big believer in like simply addressing things, right? Like just simply diagnosing things, and that's where we are. And we got to correct it, man. We got to correct this because it's not going to lead to what everyone wants.
Oh yeah,
it's not going to lead to more productivity and better life for people. It's just not.
I just wanted to add that something that, because I've been obviously tumbling down this rabbit hole of learning about socialism and all kinds of stuff, and because I obviously want to get, I want to get more educated about it and be able to think clearly about it. And something I've learned recently is that communism was rebranded as social democracy.
Yeah.
So
funny, right?
So to all the people that sit there and think that like you're creating something brand new that's going to help everyone, it's going to help no one. It's the same shit. It's just rebranded to simply slide under the radar. That's all it is.
I think a lot of our brothers from Venezuela can talk about how the rebranding went.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
It's language is a very, like we talked about before, is a very powerful tool. And boy, nobody knows how to use it like these communists, like the Alinsky-ites. What's his name? Saul Alinsky. He wrote the Rules for Radicals. If you look at these politicians, these socialists, these communists, these Marxists, like they follow his rules to a T. I mean, and they're effective. Like the thing is like you have to. One thing I see people too is like they like write people up that they don't like or ideas they don't like is like, oh well, that's dumb. It's like, okay, yeah, it's dumb and destructive, but guess what? It's very effective, and you need to know what you're being confronted with so that you can counter it and battle it. I really urge people to look at read Alinsky. I think his last name's Alinsky. And the Rules for Radicals is the book because like that's what they do. Like all those strategies, that's how they get people to buy into these authoritarian measures.
I want to add to that, okay? The other myth about it is that if you don't care, if you don't support this, then you don't care about the welfare of everybody. That is I find one of the dangerous tricks that gets pulled. Yeah. If you don't support this, well, you don't care about everybody else. That's not what anybody said. What we're saying is that we're willing to figure out the correct way to do this instead of indirectly or directly screwing a bunch of people over because we know what we're doing is wrong. I
agree with you.
Yeah.
Like socialize anything, like socialize medicine. Oh, like you don't care about people's health care. It's like, no, actually I do care. and so I want everyone to I want all these barriers of entry and everything to get out so that the free market can properly address everybody's health concerns at the lowest cost possible, instead of just creating a ton of waste and then giving everyone bad health care. Like giving everyone bad health care is, you give everyone bad health care that doesn't improve health outcomes, you're not really providing healthcare to people.
No.
And that's what socialized medicine does. So the free market will address that. It's basically, we don't have, like, we never have had, I mean, I not in my lifetime, like, when have we not had socialized medicine? It's gotten more socialized, but the reason why all the prices of necessities like healthcare goes up is because of socialism. That's why. It's all these parties in between that mess up the natural free market of things.
Absolutely. And the lobbyists.
Yeah.
Don't forget,
It's
right?
Oh, I know. And, it's to the point where, there's so many people. It's like I was talking to my mom the other day. I said, we really need to radically just take a dagger to the tax system, but there's too many people that profit off of it being very, very complicated. And that's just a microcosm of our society at large. It's that we have way too many institutions and things in our society that are overly complicated and ineffective, and they are allowed to persist because people profit off of it being that way. Yeah, and I guess as Bitcoiners, like, the solution is, well, first we have to take back the money, because that's enabled all this malinvestment, like, at a very large scale. Like, all these institutions and companies that continue to persist, it's enabled by malinvestment, and that's enabled by Keynesianism and the current financial system. So that's the start, right? And then we can figure out everything else. But at first, we need to take that power back. There's nothing more important. I mean, aside from, like, the true, simple, important things in your life, God, family, those things, your loved ones. There's nothing more important than this Bitcoin fight. There really isn't. Everybody's in the fight. Everybody's in the war. They don't know it. But if you, I mean, I said this on Saint's podcast, but it bears repeating, that if you are a human being on this spinning globe and interacting with people, like, you're part of this. So you can either transact in something that will not enable theft of your savings and censor you for your decisions and actions, and confiscate things from you, basically enabling force. Because it's like, okay, well, we'll just seize these assets or whatever. That's a lot of controls in the world today. Or you can go along with it and be a fiat slave, and you can allow your wealth to be inflated into nothing, which, as Americans, that seems like an abstract concept, but to other people around the world who've lost their savings multiple times, it's a very real thing. You can have all your savings inflated to nothing and have to start completely over through no fault of your own. And then you can have your actions censored, and your wealth confiscated because of political reasons. Like, and even in the U.S. now, with civil asset forfeiture, you can have your assets freezed because you're just accused of something, and then you can be found innocent, and your assets will not necessarily return to you. I mean, that is just so radical to me to think about, but it's true. So that's the fight. I try to wake people up, but you know how hard it is to wake people up, especially the people of wealth right now, because the system has enabled them to build themselves up, right? So they look at young people in large part, and they don't see the real problems because they see everything from their lens. They see everything from, well, when I grew up, I could get a part-time job, pay off my college, I could buy a house, and all these things. They see it from that lens, like healthcare was affordable. Basically, all their necessities were affordable. And so now when they see young people upset with, rightfully, about this very corrupt system and how it's coming to a head, it takes them a very long time to see that the world hasn't. I'm not gonna say the world has changed, because this has been building for a very long time, but like the circumstances for people now growing up are just wildly different, and it's a very selfish thing to I guess to resist this movement, um, to basically enable everybody to control their savings and their wealth and not be subject to the theft that we have today. And it benefits everybody. Obviously it benefits those people as well, but they're just more slow to move, right? That's a
Yeah.
challenge for us, but I think that challenge is going to be solved not really as much by us, but as much as by what's going to happen with the economy as they continue to resist, and around the world too, socially too, because this affects social unrest and things that we're seeing. Eventually, unfortunately, a lot of people have to touch the stove to know it's hot, and that's just how it's going to happen with especially most of these, as we say, boomers. But like I love, like so many boomers have made me such a great person. So I'm not saying that there's a lot of great boomer Bitcoiners too, but I'm just saying at large, it's because they lived in a different time. They are slower to recognize what's going on and to take the steps that are needed to correct it. And they don't feel it as much as young people. So as you would say, or as we would both say, but as you pointed out earlier, is they are not as incentivized to take quick corrective action, but they are soon. They're about to be.
Exactly.
And it's kind of sad because like we tried. I see this as from a love standpoint. It's like we even though it's not just that. It's generation before generation before generation led to this. It's not just boomers.
That's
it's
right.
Every generation. But it's just nobody has stood up and because I think we all have older people that we love dearly, and out of love, we're trying to get them, not just selfishness. Like I think a lot of them think like it's an investment thing, like pump my bags. That's not what it is with Bitcoin. Like, yeah, with crypto crap, sure. But with Bitcoin, like it's really like this is what we have to do to right the world. And it's gonna happen with you or without you, because eventually it's going to be with you. It's just going to be later. So I think a lot of us can relate to the fact that we are just begging and pleading with older people, like, hey, like, have some Bitcoin. Like, you need some exposure to this, because the things that built you up and that have enabled your lifestyle and that you've saved in, like, they're about to go very badly.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I think we all share that frustration. I don't know. I've been very ineffective. Like I've helped some, but it's so far, despite my, I feel like, intelligent efforts. I'm not perfect, but I feel like I've done a good job. But people, what's the old saying, bro? Like it's like people, they can't see things that they're paid not to see, right?
That makes sense.
And it's like, it's kind of the way it is. It's like if your savings are in vehicles that have been wildly inflated past their natural valuations with what is essentially fake demand through QE and other MMT mechanisms, like you are being paid to not see the problem. All the assets you hold are going up. That's your pay. You're being paid to not see the problem. And so I guess that's why it's so difficult. But like I said before, like the sad part about it is most of these people are not going to realize until it's later in the game, and they'll be better off long term because of the negation of the Cantillon effect, but they're going to lose. There's going to be a massive wealth transfer, and they're going to lose some of their wealth or a lot of it because of that. But I guess that's the natural state of things, and that's how things are supposed to go. I guess at this point there are other people who are better suited to have that wealth and to shape the world from that position, I guess is the nice way to put it. Yeah.
Well,
what do you think?
I think, man, it's obviously difficult to follow that all up, but like I just think that to your point, this is all going to happen anyways. And I think that, going back on the point of Bitcoin, I think that, Bitcoin. So right now, right, we have this garbage money that incentivizes us to do, very often reoccurring things to keep up with the income, because our money is so shit that it doesn't have any kind of like elasticity. It doesn't last long. Okay. And its value constantly goes down, even though everything around us is meant to show that it isn't. It's stable. Okay. Everything is meant to show that it's stable, even though you're getting a smaller steak today, even though it's of lower quality, even though every food that you're eating is, been essentially completely changed its chemistry to the cheaper versions of it. Okay. But hey, you're still eating it. Look, you're still having it. So I think that there's like a lot of mindfuckery. And I think that with a deflationary currency like Bitcoin, I think that we are finally, on a massive scale, are going to get an opportunity to partake and to exist in a deflationary world. And you know what? We used to have, as you know, money that was backed by something. And, people sit there and they look at the 1950s and they say, well, wait a second, back in the 1950s, their tax rate was 90%. Yeah, guess what? Back in the 1950s, the fucking money wasn't being printed into oblivion. Okay? Like there's a very big difference. So what did they do, right? Oh, we keep lowering the taxes. It's like, we're not lowering the taxes. We're just simply increasing the money production. It's just all it is a sleight of hand, right?
No, I agree.
That's what they're doing to us. It's to your point, it's like, so we're, do we just continue in this? Well, eventually the other shoe's going to drop. More and more of us, as you know, are waking up, and more of us are willing to take a stand. And the easiest way to take a stand, is we opt into Bitcoin, and we choose to use that ecosystem. And, like the meme says, like, when the time comes, you shouldn't have to withdraw your Bitcoin.
No, I agree.
Like when the time,
I agree completely.
Right? Like,
that's completely, that's just the truth. I'm not gonna say that's how I am. That's just the truth of things. Is eventually, you won't withdraw your Bitcoin. It will be the unit of account. Eventually. Yeah.
Exactly.
Can you imagine not having Bitcoin right now and being woke to all this stuff? I mean, I know that Bitcoin is kind of what red pills most people, but can you imagine being red pilled and then not having Bitcoin?
Well,
I don't think you survive from the stress and anxiety.
I got to be honest, for me, it's like I didn't have any of the proper vocabulary when I was a lot younger, like when I was like 16, 17, but I was definitely one of those kids who right away was like, why the hell does the government produce money? And like my parents were like, those are difficult questions. You don't need to ask those questions. That's just how it works. So to your point, like I was already in my 20s and I was like, okay, I'm like, so our money's bullshit. It can be inflated away. It's not real. How the hell do I do this? And the only thing I could think of was to use the system. So what do we know? Well, we know that number always goes up. We know that they're going to continue to print money. So what could I do? Well, I got to go and find dividend investing, dividend plays in stocks, right? For things that people use all the time and that have more or less, whether times are good or times are bad, they're always going to make money, on average. So you end up finding companies like Procter & Gamble, like Unilever, like MasterCard, Visa. You find companies like Kellogg's, Coca-Cola, Nestle, all these boring as fuck companies. But guess what? Rain or shine, everyone's buying their products. Whether you're rich, whether you're poor, Coca-Cola is sold in 237 countries. Yeah, they're not going bankrupt. They're not going bankrupt anytime soon. You know what I mean? So it's like before Bitcoin, all I had was this plan with these stocks. And this is what I was doing. I was simply accumulating to create income faster than inflation could destroy it. But then I learned that they can create that inflation anytime they want. So I can. So true. So you can never, like, it's like you can't. there's no winning. There's no winning unless you're the guy making the money, like making the rules, you know? So yeah,
It's true.
I totally
there's
agree.
no winning if you remain. If you play the game, there's no winning. If you play that game,
You know?
I guess the way we could put it is that Bitcoin is the 100% lethal shot to the current system, and most people don't realize it yet. Before Bitcoin, I mean, who knows how long the game could be played, but Bitcoin exists. It's a powerful thing. Bitcoin exists, and because it exists, the two systems, I won't put it that way, but because Bitcoin exists, the current system is going to die. It's just the way it is. Sorry, but you have a hard money now. And eventually, all the wealth will gravitate towards what protects it best. Just the way it is. And it's going to happen. I don't know the time frame and how quick or how slow. I do highly respect the stock to flow model. I think it's a great way to attempt to measure unforgeable scarce assets like Bitcoin. I think a lot of people they're really confused, like stock to flow and how it works. But I mean, it's a brilliant metric that I respect a lot, and I use that as a guideline. But like, none of us know, because of extraneous factors, exactly how this is going to go. I think stock to flow is a great, I guess you could say, like a guide to how the natural factors of a scarce asset like Bitcoin would play out and have played out and should play out in the future. But I actually I guess I disagree with a lot of people now talking about stock to flow, because I actually think that it's going to be wrong to the high side. I mean, I think it's going to be wrong as in, I think Bitcoin is going to go past stock to flow's projections. And I think that because of the environment that we are currently in the world. And I think, stock to flow does not account for this type of environment, which is basically just lighting hyper Bitcoinization, like just laying gasoline down. I mean, it's just once these factors like recognized in stock to flow start to play out in this type of environment, I just see the price going way higher.
I really totally agree.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the way it is. It's the world we live in now, and it's just starting too. I mean, like they are backed in the corner. Like Bitcoin's the kill shot. We don't know how long it takes. It is the kill shot, and they are just floundering about, and there's nothing they can do but make it worse. They have no other choice now.
Oh, I totally agree.
Yeah, like they have to. So I guess our mission as Bitcoiners is how do we help good people realize it? I guess, I mean, I always struggle with this, to be honest with you, to be really frank, and it'll piss some people off, because like I think part of it is like if you are trying to convince someone to buy Bitcoin and they don't, it's just harsh, but it's like they're not supposed to have that much influence in the future world. I mean, I know that's hard to kind of come to terms with, but it's like, I guess that natural selection, if you want to use that word, didn't choose them at this point. I think Bitcoin, it's just such an amazing thing how it works, and it basically forces nature and free markets and things like, it forces all these things back into society in a way. And I guess everybody, what Max Kaiser said, I think Max Kaiser, you can correct me on that, said everybody has is exactly as much Bitcoin as they're supposed to have. You know, and
I like that. I like that a lot.
I think it's true.
I know. I think you're right.
Yeah, and the people who resist, they're just not supposed to have that much Bitcoin.
That's all.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And that's like, I mean,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, but that's perfectly fine. And to your point, right? I mean, think about it. You know, the horse and buggy guy, right? When he was sitting there, like, pleading with everyone that cars are evil, you know?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
you know what? Sorry, but natural selection at that point did not choose, you know, you're on the wrong team. You know, sorry, you're on the team that goes away.
What cracks me up is the gold guys now. I mean, it's kind of sad in a way for some of them. I used to be a gold guy.
Yeah.
But like that was before Bitcoin, you know, because it was just the only thing I could see. But it's sad because this goes to the importance of being able to adapt. Because like what you see with gold guys, I guess that I will say is sad, is that some of them have just a brilliant diagnosis of the current situation and what's wrong. Just brilliant. And then they have the absolutely incorrect, most asinine now solution to it, which is gold or gold-backed paper currency. Like it's sad to see.
That's their
you know?
playbook. That
I know.
You know, like that's their playbook.
Know.
It's like, all right, so we know about this problem, guys. We've been harping on this. We have the solution. Here I come with my sundial. You know, like it's like,
and a lot of them, right, are incentivized, like our good old friend Peter, to not see it because they have a lot tied into gold and precious metals being successful. But it's not just guys like that. It's also it's also people who really, they just, for some reason, they have an emotional attachment or something to gold, and they can't see that the fact that it has a physical nature is the reason why it failed. It's like when people talk about all the problems and everything we have, and it's like, I just tell them, it's like, yeah, that's because your gold failed. Like that's why we had to have Bitcoin. Like gold already failed. It's like, it's just so ridiculous. Like that's why we're here. That's why we have to have a non-physical, trustless asset, decentralized asset like Bitcoin that we can save in, because gold's physical nature, it led to the failure of our financial system, and it's why we are today. It failed. You know, you better go get Bitcoin.
Exactly.
Because you know, it's like when you're I guess like the sports betting. It's like when I'm listening to like some fundamental analysts, and they're telling me or describing to me like how great this team is and everything, and it's like this scene in Moneyball. It's like, well, like if he's such a great hitter, why doesn't he hit well? You know, it's like, if gold is so great at protecting us from inflation and from all this confiscation and censorship, like why are we here then? You know, it's because the facts are gold failed. You have to be blind not to see it. And Bitcoin is the only thing we have that can actually solve those problems.
That's right.
Yeah, it's wake up. You know?
I totally agree, man. Super bullish. Super bullish. So, dude, BlakkBull, man, we have been going for an hour and 25 minutes together.
Wow, how about that? Well, that's because it's just a talk between friends, man.
Exactly.
Like we talked beforehand. Listeners, like I just told my man, I said, yeah, I'm just looking for a casual shoot the breeze conversation with my TCBP pleb friend, you know, and I guess that's what we had, bro.
I think it's man, it's totally awesome, and I feel like we went all over the place. So
we did,
which
but that's
is
me.
No, but you know what?
Had me on, I'm gonna go all over the place. You know?
But you know what? It's like how could I not, right? Like that's how it works with good energy, right? It just feeds off each other. So
that's saying too, like it's like us together talking about Bitcoin, and the facts is that Bitcoin, I mean, like I said before, like I'm not talking about a loss of a loved one or something more serious than that. But besides that, like Bitcoin fixes this. So if you're talking about Bitcoin, we're literally talking about everything in the world.
Yep, literally.
Like every problem. Exactly.
You know, because we're looking at the root cause. So,
that's right.
So before we end this off, do you have any final thoughts you want to leave with the listeners of the pod?
Final thoughts. Well, I'll just I'll just put you in the mindset that I've been in, I guess, because I guess that's I didn't have anything planned. So I would just say that lately, maybe something a lot of people can relate to. I know people around the world have noticed this. I guess I'm speaking a lot to Americans now. Is that America is an idea. It doesn't have a geographical region, but we do have the nation of America where we tried to espouse these ideas and build a country from them. But we failed. And I think it's very important to say that and to recognize that we failed. And in order to become what we want to be, we first have to recognize and say it like we mean it. Like we failed. America failed. And we have to bring that back. And we have the social freedoms to bring it back. And financially, we cannot correct everything and make America, I'll say make America free again. I'd get political, because I don't like Trump either. I don't like anybody, So, but make America free again. Like we need to do that. And the way we do that is financially, because financially, if you're an American, you're a debt slave and you're a tax slave. And that is not going to lead to more prosperity and production. It's just not. It's only going to lead to bad things. We're going to drive out producers, innovators. We're going to keep producers and innovators out. So the reason why I said we failed, because I want to recognize that and I want us to correct it now. And this is a world effort too, but Americans especially, I'm speaking to you, is like we need to be accountable for what we are so that we can correct who we are and so that we can start being who we all want to be and who a lot of people think we are, but that we're not. And that's the beacon of freedom that we're supposed to be. So we have social freedoms and we need to start using them. And if something's wrong, we need to not go along with it. We need to not comply with things if they're wrong. And the biggest way you cannot comply right now is by holding Bitcoin. It's the absolute biggest non-compliance action you can have right now is to buy and hold and save in Bitcoin, because you are not complying with this financial system that is the root cause of placing all of us in the world as the USDB, the reserve currency, all of us in the world in this debt financial slavery that we're in. So it's a call to arms, I guess I can frame this. It's a call to arms to all of you to hodl your Bitcoin and as your most important action, and to not stop there, but to also take a moral stand and to not comply with laws and other things that are wrong and that put peaceful, non-harmful people in cages. We have to be well-rounded in our freedom actions and wake up to the taxation, regulation, and things we live under. So that's that's where I'll end it, is hodl your Bitcoin and use your social freedoms that we still have in the U.S. to non-comply with the tyrannical things going on here right now. And we'll correct it. We'll do it together. It's going to take time, but the first thing we have to do is find a backbone.
I love it, man. I love it. Fix the money, fuck fiat, buy Bitcoin.
That's right.
Cool. BlakkBull, thank you so much for coming on my podcast, man. I look forward to the next time we get to sit down and have one of these cosmic chats.
Thanks so much, man. God bless you, and God bless all the listeners.
Hey, God bless you too, man.
I love all y'all, and let's keep fighting the good fight.
Cheers.
Cheers, bro.
I hope everybody enjoyed my chat with BlakkBull Sports. It was really awesome. I've been meaning to have that. I think we've been meaning to have that conversation for a really long time. So his contact details will be in the show notes. And of course, mine, if you want to get in touch with me on Twitter or Telegram, I'm at CoinIcarus. If you want to shoot me an email, I am CoinIcarus@funwithbitcoin.com. Thank you all for listening, and catch you all next time.